From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. If you have any questions you'd like to ask or advice you'd like to give, come on over to podtherapy.net and join the conversation. We have two special guests in the studio with us today, one beagle and one dachshund, and hopefully they don't join in the discussion. And now, broadcasting from Nick's house, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tanchman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
I'm feeling nostalgia for the days of Nick's blanket fort. Those were good days.
Now that we've upgraded, we're getting close to our 1 year. We decided we were going to backtrack a little bit today, go back to our roots.
Yeah, go back to the humble origins. The very humble origins was at my desk. Well, that was on my phone though. We started at level 9. We man, this is our 51st episode, Nick.
It is.
So next episode is going to be season finale of season 1. Hopefully not series finale. Hopefully not, but there's no promises.
Yeah, but it will be amazing.
It's going to be. Yeah, so we are going to do our season finale for episode 52 coming up here on the next episode that will close out the very first year in the chronicles of Pod Therapy. Really proud of us, man. We've come a long way. We'll get to do some nostalgia and you know, thinking about it in the next one. But so we actually are starting to make plans for what our special season finale episode is going to be. It won't be our typical show. It'll be something special, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it. We have a few ideas that we're kind of kicking around.
Yeah.
But if any of you have any ideas that you want to send our way, let us know.
Yeah, for our season finale of season 1, if you have any ideas you'd like, kick them to us, because we don't have anything for sure yet, but a couple of ideas on the whiteboard. So, and your dogs are awesome, Nick. They're being good girls right now.
So far.
When I first came in the house, though, I thought they were going to rip my freaking head off.
Yeah, they give that impression.
Layla was easily purchased with a handful of kibble. Like that, I was surprised because at first she was extremely aggressive. Like when you opened the door, I thought she was going to lunge at me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, get a handful of kibble and just offer it to her. She's like, no, we're great. You get me.
She can be intimidating even with the cute little sweater.
Yeah, they're both wearing sweaters. Layla is this black and white beagle. Beautiful dogs, by the way.
Thank you.
And Layla has a little gray sweater on it with like a California bear outline on the
back. It's a polar bear.
And it's, is that a polar bear? That's cute. It looks like the white kind of outline from California flag. And then she's got like a black and white flannel collar. Like that is so cute. It actually looks like a sweater vest on top of a flannel collared shirt.
Yes.
That's the look it's going for.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So not only is she wearing clothes, she is like accessorizing on those clothes. And then Layla's got a... Penny Lane has got a like a pink and blue like pullover sweater.
It's actually a hoodie.
Yeah, I can see little bunny ear things on it. Like, it's got little ears sticking out of the top, which there's no way that hood's going over that dog's head.
And then it's got the little pockets.
It's got pockets. Yeah, she's got like the hoodie pockets. Like, do you pick her up with that? Do you just reach down and grab her?
No, but I just thought I should put treats in there. And then
wow. And watch the other one tear her to shreds. Well, Penny does not like me, so even as I say her name, she's giving me the stink eye like, you know, I don't know who this guy thinks he is walking up in my house feeding my sister. But it's what I did. That's what I did, Penny. Take it. So 51. Almost to the season finale, and we still somehow have listeners.
This is 50 more episodes than I thought we'd do.
Yeah, that's almost to the number. And we still have people writing into the show. And wouldn't you know it, we have enough sent to us to do another show. So I guess we'll keep this train going until people stop caring. People figure out we don't know what you're talking about.
Right on.
And then we'll give it away. But yeah, if you want, I can get us started off here.
Start us off.
So I like this first one. This first one uses a word that at first I think a lot of us might not recognize. And I had to kind of like take a second to like remember what the heck this is. But it's Hypnagogic Hallucinations. Hypnagogic. At first, I thought it was misspelled.
Sounds like eggnog.
Yes, that is what it is. It's hallucinating eggnog. Good. So it's, hi, Jim and Nick. I need help. For 20 years now, I have been having hypnagogic hallucinations, mainly of the visual variety, but sometimes I get the auditory and sensory ones as well. Most people have no idea what these are, but I'm sure that they've experienced it at least once. Well, I have them about twice a week and occasionally nightly if I'm taking medicine for like a cold or something. But for the most part, I'm healthy and am on no prescription meds, nor do I take anything over the counter regularly. I work out 3 to 5 times a week. I don't drink. I don't smoke or do any recreational drugs. Last night, I had a personal record of 4 hypnagogic hallucination events in the same night, 2 of which had me jumping from my bed and tearing the blankets, sheets, and pillows from the mattress before waking up fully. Your dog just sneezed.
Yes.
Pretty cute. My events range from seeing people in the room to seeing vehicles or creatures coming through the window to sensing the presence of someone in the bed and making space for them or giving them a pillow even though I am alone in the bed. I have dove headfirst into my wall, trying to get to safety from my ceiling fan crashing down on me like a spinning death machine, and I've even woke up my father when I was younger to tell him the house was on fire when in fact nothing was wrong at all. These events have made sleeping very difficult for me and my partners in the past. Luckily, my partners have always understood my issue and calmly brought me to my senses every time. After the events, I always remember what I did, but have no clue why I woke up and did the actions that I did. It has been explained to me that these hypnagogic hallucinations are essentially the opposite of sleep paralysis, which I have only experienced twice in my life. Basically, my body is awake, but my mind is asleep or dreaming, while sleep paralysis is the mind being awake and the body is asleep. So my questions are, is this considered a mental health issue? Would therapy fix or help this? My doctor only offered to refer me to a sleep study place, but I couldn't really afford the doctor's bill for that, so I never did it. I've tried many things and can never seem to find a pattern or practice that fixes it. I've done fantastically healthy diets, taken serotonin and other sleep aids, kept to a good sleep schedule with my room completely blacked out for sleep. I've tried sleeping with music or TV on and without it on, with heavy blankets on and off, and without, and there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason other than when I am on other medicine, the incidences increase. So, can you help me? Scooper Ascending.
That's interesting.
That's a really good question.
That is a really good question. I have not personally experienced this that I'm aware of.
Oh, you do it all the time. You started a podcast once. Do you realize that? You realize we're speaking into mics right now? What?
No, but I know somebody who has experienced this.
Okay,
and I don't really have their permission to talk about it, so I don't want to use their name or who they are. But
let's use the name Layla, since that's your dog's name, and she's currently trying to kiss me.
No, but this person, this person who has this, I actually sleep with on a daily night.
Oh, okay,
a nightly basis. So I don't want to, but I don't want to say who it is.
I don't want to say who it is, though. Well, thanks, Nick. There goes my privacy. I didn't sign that ROI.
This
I'm also in a podcast.
This person, who I'm not going to name, has experienced this, and it's the weirdest thing to see from the outsider's perspective. Something just this crazy, odd behavior, just getting up and needing to close all the curtains or something, or needing to find a way out of the room. So that's a really good question. What are your thoughts, Jim?
So hypnagogic hallucinations, as you're hearing this, we have to kind of differentiate it, right? So it's important to realize that when we talk about hypnagogic, what we're talking about is like it's related to sleeping. And so it's like they hallucinate during the sleeping process, or like as they're fading into sleep, or as they're coming out of sleep, right? So we're not talking the same kind of thing that we're talking about with like schizophrenia, where we're actually having visual hallucinations of maybe like a shadow person or something to that effect, which you can kind of tell even from the description because of how vivid the hallucinations are. People that are having some kind of visual or auditory hallucination, it's not going to usually be, there's literally a human laying next to me in bed and I'm like laying down a pillow for them, right? Like it's usually glimmers of things, or like, they look in a mirror and suddenly something vivid happens, but it's not quite as tangible as all
So
that.
The movie A Beautiful Mind isn't really a good...
Yeah. That's not a good description
of what it's like to have a visual
like a fabricated reality where you walk into a room and there's all these printers and scientists and astronauts and like it's not like that, and everything's coherent and makes sense and it's this long drawn out thing. Though that movie did do a good job of explaining how real a delusion can feel, where a person is now fitting all the things they do see and hear inside of the terms of a delusion, right? So that's fair. But anyway, back to hypnagogic. So this has to do with sleep. So when he talks about sleep paralysis, it's whenever you're like stuck in bed and your body's a prison. So you're awake, You are like, know that you're awake, but you can't summon your body to move. So that's like happening because like it's almost like the gears are not aligning, like the clutch is pressed and the gear of the brain is not touching the body. Hypnagogic is kind of the opposite of that, in that your mind is not in reality, but your body is awake. So it is a little bit interesting, though. I don't think of hypnagogic hallucinations as being similar to sleep paralysis. I think of it as similar to lucid dreaming. Have you heard of lucid dreaming?
Yeah.
Yeah, so lucid dreaming is something you actually train yourself to do, but it's the ability to come to consciousness during the dream and then not wake up from the dream. So, like, if you want to fly, go fly. If you want to, like, live out your fantasies, live them out. Like, there's a way to do that during dreaming and not necessarily having a problem. But hypnagogic hallucinations, you're not choosing them. Like, they're just happening. So that's the first thing, is just to make sure I clarify for the listener. Like, that's what we're talking about here. To the writer, when he says, can you help me with this? That was a very direct question. And so I want to take a second to point out, we are not doing therapy on this show in the sense that to do therapy, Nick and I understand that to mean a person sits down with us, we take a full history of their mental health, their physical health, their family life, their work life, their social life. We call that a biopsychosocial. We try to understand deeply what they're going through, and then we try to make a treatment plan and ultimately help them. And there's a key ingredient to that. We have informed consent. So that person understands their rights as a patient, they understand our role as a therapist, and we agree in writing that this is what we're going to do. This is a great opportunity for me to point out, I guess 51 episodes in, I should have done this earlier.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. Pod Therapy is an educational show. It has to do with therapy, and we are therapists. But no, to the writer, I wouldn't answer affirmatively, yes, we can help you, but yes, there is help available. Now, with hypnagogic hallucinations, it's interesting because I'm not sure if somebody would prescribe an antipsychotic to try to treat that. The writer doesn't point out that he's ever taken anything like that. I would imagine that if he would do a consult with a psychiatrist, because the hallucinations have caused danger to him, like he has jumped out of bed and gone, across the room like he's scared, that is vivid enough and like lucid hallucination enough that I think that they might want to prescribe an antipsychotic in that case. That's a guess. Obviously, we don't prescribe medicine. I am not recommending medicine. But to the writer, if this is causing distress in your life and it's disrupting your ability to function, to be safe in your own home, or to check what's real and what's not, you really should have a consultation with a psychiatrist, because that psychiatrist might decide that in this kind of a case, an antipsychotic medication would be warranted. An antipsychotic has the ability to sort of dial down some of the biochemicals that ultimately result in a hallucination. And so that might be all you need to kind of get a good night's rest and not necessarily suffer from this anymore.
Do you know if it's at all linked to stress?
I mean, the writer talked about, I don't know if it is as a general rule. I wouldn't suppose that it is, honestly. I mean, my guess is that this isn't something that's happening because you're in a distressed state. My guess is that it's similar to lucid dreaming. It's just sort of like the REM sleep getting ahead of itself, and so like your brain beginning to fabricate what it needs to during the sleep state, but it's doing that while you're still awake. Which is just another way to describe this, if you wanted to be flip about it, would be an overactive imagination, in the sense that your brain is literally providing imagination time because it's a dream while you're awake. Okay. So it's like the brain is crossing together the real feed and the dream feed, and so you're not able to catch it because it's happening right when you wake up or like when you're going to bed.
So one thing that I would suggest, it's never going to hurt to at least consult a psychiatrist or a therapist. Yeah.
I don't think a sleep study would have been helpful, because a sleep study is generally for like sleep apnea and breathing. Like, right. What are they going to see? That you get out of bed and start swinging, and they're going to go, why'd you do that? Like, because I thought there was a guy. Like, okay, that doesn't teach them a lot, except it will give them like vitals. They'll see your heart rate escalate. They'll see, brain waves. But in my opinion, I don't think that that's usually the way that they're going to determine something psychiatric.
Yeah, I'm also not a specialist in that either. Maybe I don't know, maybe there is something that there is to that. But what I would do in this situation is I would identify, maybe try keeping a journal and keeping track of things that are occurring during your sleep schedule or during the day before sleep and maybe right after sleep. maybe take a look at what your sleep schedule actually is. Is it consistent or is it irregular? Maybe try that out. And then also, maybe, I doubt food's going to have anything to do with it, but no. I would be logging everything. I would be looking for some sort of pattern.
That is something you can do proactively, Scoopitor, because if you do get a psychiatrist consultation, which I think you really ought to, I'll tell you that right now. I think that's going to be the road that ultimately produces a solution. So if we can provide anything, perhaps it's kind of like to be an educational triage for you, to say, hey, what you're describing sounds like it would be in the sandbox of psychiatry. It sounds like those symptoms might be treated by what we might see an antipsychotic treat, though we would defer to our psychiatrist colleague to tell you the answers to this. But I think Nick's still right. Observation and data gathering is so vital, and your psychiatrist is going to want those answers. What did you eat that night? Did you have stress that night? Are you on another medicine? What medicines provoke this? Scoopitor, the fact that you've already noticed that there's a spike during certain medications is extremely meaningful.
Right.
Now log what milligrams of it was, when you took it, and what happened. That's very important.
I don't know. I keep kind of going back to maybe this being somehow linked to anxiety.
Okay.
And if nothing else, it may be a good thing just to track and just see if there's anything there. Does it tend to happen on nights where your anxiety is higher than others? Maybe keeping some kind of anxiety log or something might be helpful.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. But, I do encourage you to go get a consultation with a psychiatrist, which is not something we always recommend. Sometimes you'll see Nick and I sort of say, you know what, you can probably do therapy for this, and then you kind of circle over to medicine later, get a consult with a doctor. In this case, I can tell you pretty well, I don't see a lot of therapy options that would probably deal with this. Because it's happening in such an involuntary and visceral way. I just think it's going to be something a little bit more hardware than software, and probably something a psychiatrist would have the answer to.
So I did find an article in Medical News Today as kind of a takeaway for this, and it does state that these tend to have no long-term side effects, so that's good.
Yeah.
They often happen because of an underlying medical condition or during periods of poor sleep and stress.
Yeah, which is actually another reason why I want you to probably get to a psychiatrist, because it is possible, again, assuming this might be more of a hardware thing than a software thing,
right?
It's possible that they might want to do a CT and just double check to make sure all the equipment up there is firing as it should, and if there's anything they can do to help that, they're going to. So, great question, honestly, and we don't get a ton of these that, are this medical in nature, but I would put this in the medical category, and I would want to see you collaborate with a psychiatrist to find that answer. That's definitely their skill set.
I agree.
Or a neurologist. They might be helpful at it too. But you could probably start safely with a psychiatrist, and they're usually easier to get to than a neurologist, I would say.
Right.
Great question, though. And thanks for writing in, man.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss unemployment anxiety. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Robert Brownie Jr. Mint. One of my favorite names of all the sponsors on our show. He is also one of those who actually jumped over the $20 entry to get into Theraproducerness, and for a long time was chairman of the board. Right now he is the vice chairman of the board. And so we're very thankful. Yeah, somebody beat him by $1. But Robert, we are so grateful for you. Robert's also awesome because he's written into the show before, and he's also a huge advocate of mental health just in the interwebs. You'll see him on our Facebook and our Patreon and our Twitter feeds, just kind of steering people to the right directions, offering books, offering ideas. And he might even write a book one day, which would be super cool. And hopefully if he does, he'll let us write the foreword so we can just ruin it early.
That would be great.
Wait, nobody will ever read it.
I would like to have a quote on the book.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, but something completely out of context.
Nick Tanchman gives this 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Yeah, and everybody's like, "Who the hell?"
Yeah, and I'll promise you this right now, Robert. If you write that book, we will read it on book club, and we will probably not tear it to shreds. Hopefully, we'll read it more generously than we read other books. He's like putting his pen down right now. Like, never mind.
You just talked him out of it.
But Robert, thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you'd like to join Robert and make the show possible and listen to the amazing extras that we have on our Patreon, such as book club and afterthoughts and other special offerings, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up for as low as $1. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next question is about unemployment anxiety.
Okay, our listener writes in 2018, I finally got my first job, and I thought adjusting from not working to working would be difficult, but it ended up being remarkably easy. Now that the job has ended for the season, I feel lost. I live with anxiety, and when I was working, it seemed much more manageable, but now that I'm back to unemployed, it seems worse than ever. I'm just so confused why I'm more anxious about stupid small home tasks than the more difficult stresses of my job, and wanted to know what you guys think. Thanks, Anonymous.
Great question. It's funny because this is yet another one that I feel like I deeply relate to. So in my life, working does cause me anxiety. Like I get anxiety from everything, but like, I deal with that really well. But in my recent past, whenever we left the rehab, I was straight up unemployed.
Right.
And that was scary.
Yeah, damn right it was.
Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, you were unemployed for 30 minutes. What are you talking about? You were unemployed until you got to your car. Like, you answered your emails and they were like, oh, Nick, we really want you on the team. You're like, yes. Yeah. That was easy. Done. Should I come down and sign the paperwork right now? Yeah, I was not so fortunate. And so for me, basically, I spent several months unemployed, and it was pretty intimidating. And that anxiety of nothingness, like I was so used to working hard and having a million things to do all day, and then like I would get my kids ready in the morning and they would leave for school, and then I would walk into my house and there was nothing. And I would like clean, and I would do the dishes, and I would just try to be productive. I would send out resumes, I would start looking for jobs, I would try to do the next right thing. But God, there is, like, sometimes I think we associate anxiety with stress or having too many things to do, like too many things we feel overstimulated. But I remember in that situation, I felt deep anxiety from being understimulated. Like there was nothing going on. I was staring into the void.
Stress is overstimulation as well as understimulation.
I think it is. I really think it is.
I mean, stress is your body telling you, hey, something's wrong.
Right.
And so if you're understimulated and you've got all these worries and all these things that are going to happen, then your body's going to be telling you.
Our anxiety thrives on uncertainty. And so living in a world in which you are unemployed and uncertain, it really becomes problematic. And so like I definitely relate to this. It's interesting because he says, I once went from unemployed to employed. I didn't feel the anxiety. Then I went from employed to unemployed, and holy crap, like now it's like crushing me. And he says, I'm so confused, right? Because, I'm more anxious about stupid small things at my house than I was about jobs. And that's another thing I think we got to talk about. So in life, anxiety aside, think with me about stress and our ability to sort of deal and cope with like normal tasks, things that are hard. The longer you are inactive and you're not like stretching your mind and like carrying the burden of daily routines and tasks, the lower, in a sense, your stress threshold gets. So like I have a person in my life who worked and used to be able to spin the world on one finger, had multiple children, also raised them, like had so much going on. They spent a year unemployed due to a health thing. And at the end of that year, taking a shower was a really hard thing to get to. Or like going down the street to pick up some milk was a very serious task. And like they feel overwhelmed by very small things. Like if their spouse was like, hey, can you take out the trash, feed the dogs, mop the floors, and take the car out and get it gassed up today, please. You got 8 hours to pull this off before I get home. That's not hard. I do more than that before you eat breakfast.
Right.
But that person is devastated because it's very hard to do. And there's a natural thing that happens where your stress resistance kind of drops. And I think that also causes anxiety. Like I felt that happen to me too. I went from being able to solve 100 problems in an hour to really feeling like my like brain metabolism had slowed to a crawl, which was also really anxiety provoking.
Now you also, in addition to having your anxiety about small things, you also had the anxiety about the bigger picture, right? About not having a job. So one thing that I'm kind of hearing Anonymous say is that there's way more anxiety with the small things than there is about the larger thing.
Yes.
And I'm thinking maybe that's just because that's what is obvious. That's like what's right in front. And it's kind of a target. Maybe that's not where your stress and anxiety is really coming from, but it's like the first thing that's there. So that kind of becomes the target of the stress and anxiety.
I think it is. And also there's like dread. Like there's that old saying, like if you want something done, give it to a busy person, right? And so like that's true because they're already on the move. And we in psychology say these kinds of statements all the time, like, hey, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, right? You know, like give it to a busy person, they'll get it done. And so that's why we'll sometimes tell people, hey, the best thing you can do is get active right now, and we'll solve these things as we go. But I just need you starting to do something with your day, you know, get a routine. And people say, well, like, why? That's not productive toward my goal of employment or whatever. And we'll be like, we need you to keep it going. Like, we need the rust not to build. And my dad always has a saying about that. He says, planes rust faster on the ground than in air. And I guess that's true. Like, airlines plan to move these planes in air even if they're half full because it's worse for their bottom line to, like, let the plane sit on the ground because it will rust. And it tells you a lot. And I think humans are the same way. And my point in all that is, at some point you get rusty. At some point you start to have so much empty space in your brain and your schedule and your day that even a small thing now takes like psychic energy, and it's scary. And I remember that.
Now, if we apply what we've learned from Mark Manson,
oh God,
in our
do not quote the book club
book
that I yell at every single week.
Actually, but this actually kind of fits in.
Okay,
it fits in a little bit because one of the things that he was talking about in his book is kind of this idea that that we essentially stress over whatever is around us, right? So it's like, you know, he uses the example of the old woman at the grocery store complaining that milk went up 5 cents or something. Yeah, that becomes that was her big deal. Yeah, that was a big deal for her because there was nothing else going on. Yeah, and it's almost kind of like we have stress already anyway, and it's gonna happen. Right, it's going to be directed someplace. So right now, if those are the little things that are happening and that's what's going on in your life, then that's where it's going to be directed. As you start working again, that'll change. My guess is I think it'll go right back to where it was before, which is you start stressing about your job. Yeah, start stressing about bigger things that are going on. I think my advice, I would say, having been unemployed twice, I mean, the second time was very short, like Jim said.
Shut up.
But the first time was really scary. Like,
I remember that.
Yeah, I called Jim right away. I was like, within 5 minutes of losing that job, I was like, I'm selling my guitars.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, stop it. Like, you're like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm going to sell my Strat. And like, what? Like, what just happened again? Did you just burn down your house? Like, what happened? You're like ready to do like a blood drive. Yeah. I guess I got a couple pounds of blood in me right now. If I get rid of that, I don't need it all. Like, geez, man. Like, what's going on?
But yeah, I mean, that was incredibly stressful. It was my first experience with it. The second time, I did kind of have a fallback. But I think for me, it was the thing that really helped when I was unemployed is, like Jim said, it was staying busy. It was things like, even if it was looking for work, which that ultimately became a full-time job. Yes. That in and of itself was a full-time job.
Because a good girl.
That's Layla.
I like her. She's trying to crawl in my lap. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Like, she does not give a shit what's going on. No. She's like, that's mine. Like, I'm sitting in front of that mic.
But then also, it was a good time for me to stay busy doing other things. Like, I was hiking on a regular basis. I went to the gym. I was trying to do stuff that wasn't going to cost me a whole lot of money. Right. I was trying to save money, but just staying active and, keeping my routine. I still got up every morning at the same time. I still got showered every morning. I still got dressed every morning, That was very helpful for my mental health. Yeah. So if you're not already doing that, then you need to. Yeah, that'd be one thing I'd advise.
So to the writer, the first thing I guess, the big takeaways I want you to understand is, first, you're not weird. Okay, this is actually pretty normal. And in a sense, it's actually pretty predictable. And to all listeners, I want you to just notice this. You've seen this happen in other people's lives near you. You may have even seen it in your own. But whenever there's a vacancy in like a human life, as far as their schedule, their busyness, and what their mind is required to solve each day, they kind of get rusty. And that causes them to have like a low anxiety resilience or a low stress resistance. And little things become big for them. And it's easy to criticize them. It's easy to make fun of them. It's easy to pretend like it's a big deal. But I would like you to just appreciate that. And, the answer is not to run from it. The answer is run to it. And we ultimately increase our resistance and our resilience by engaging and taking on more tasks every day. And so to the anonymous writer, the solution for this during the season of unemployment, I need you to make an agenda for yourself. I need you to come up with activities that you're going to do every day. Nick, I don't know if you remember this, but during that unemployment spell, one of the things that I did to start taking my mind off of this was live guitar practices.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. Was like, okay, I need to stay sharp. Like, I need something to keep my mind on things. So I would promise people that were on our Twitter and listening to us, and I'd say, hey, give me song requests, whatever you offer, I will play without practicing it. I'll pull it up and play it live, and I'll do it on video. And I started live streaming on Twitter video practices of my guitar playing, which is just terrible. And I would sing along and do the whole damn thing. Because it was something. It was something to put on my agenda. People were holding me accountable. There were people that were watching. 5 to 10 people would watch and like, yay, go Jim, whatever. Like, you're playing Disney songs. But it gave me something that was meaningful in the moment, and it was nice. Like, I enjoyed the attention. I enjoyed playing. But it was something on my day. So to the writer, I would like to see you fill your day with those little nuggets of like going to the gym, reading this book, this many hours I'm sending applications, I'm sending out resumes, I'm going to, make Christmas cards. Like, you've got to keep things on your agenda or you will rust. So don't be the plane that stays on the ground. Get in the air.
Mm-hmm. Stay active. Thanks for writing in.
Great question.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about dating apps. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Kyla Lansbury. Nick, I don't know if you know this about Kyla Lansbury.
I don't.
But she is the one who invented the wheel in 1772.
Way to go, Kyla.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Also, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, didn't the wheel get invented before that? And wait, is Kyla really a vampire who's been alive for 300 years? You see, nobody knows. And the reason we don't know is because Kyla has still not sent me anything to read during this little blurb, which means I now get to make up apocryphal biographical information since there's nobody to dispute it. So, congratulations, Kyla, for your vampireness and for your contribution to the world via the wheel. Something that we are all very grateful for. And more than that, more than your contribution of the wheel, we are grateful for your contribution to Pod Therapy. It is because Kyla Lansbury is a Theraproducer that our bills are paid so that we can continue to do this show and make the time to do it. And so we're so grateful that she covers our studio fees and makes that possible for us.
Making episode 51 possible.
Making episode 51 possible. If you'd like to join the party to help Kyla push this rock up the hill, then you can join us down at patreon.com/therapy. You can kick in as little as $1 and just be a mental health advocate who helps us be available to answer these questions and to help people. Again, this is a non-profit show. We don't make any profit. Any money people contribute really just covers the costs of having a website and having a studio. That's it. And so thank you so much, Kyla, for contributing. And thanks to all of you who are going to join us at patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next listener writes in about dating apps. So this one is a lot of fun. So we have a Theraproducer, David Data Scoop Vialon. And David, he writes a blog a lot of people don't know about, but he shared it with us before, and he kind of kicks us excerpts and stuff because it'll have to do with things we're talking about on the show.
And not only does he write a blog, but he writes on our Patreon and is very upset that we did not sing the songs that he requested.
No, he is upset that you did not sing the songs that he requested. Oh, wait, no, it was a general request thread, I think. Yeah. So during my karaoke birthday, we had people kicking in. David did not hesitate. Like, when that thread came live,
and he had some good ones too.
No, he did. Yeah, there was a lot of them. But then Nick ended up choosing Justin Bieber's "Go Love Yourself," and we sang "Build Me Up, Buttercup," among other things. That's because that was what was available in the catalog. Like, we did not have a lot of choice.
That, and we hardly got the mic at all.
That's true. Honestly. My brother-in-laws were all over that thing. So, but yeah, David was one of the ones on our Patreon like, hey guys, noticed none of my songs got picked, and nobody's songs got picked.
But we're not making excuses. You're right.
He was right, which means we owe him karaoke. So we'll just have to do that next time he's in town. But David also, he writes a blog, and he has lots of different bits on there. And there was a bit that he sent in recently because we've had several questions about dating apps and about online dating. And there was a research one that we read once. And he wrote, this is actually a really funny one. You should check out his blog. So if you want to check out David's blog, it's at www.wgdavid.com. david.com. So just WG as in God, WGDavid.com. And it's hilarious. And he writes a lot of interesting things. Not just funny things. Some of it's deep, and it has to do with addiction, has to do with mental health. He writes poetry. He writes about life. It's just a very living blog. But there was a post on there that I really liked, in which he reviewed dating apps. And so David goes through all the dating apps, every single one, every one he's ever tried, every website, every app, and he basically qualifies it and tells you okay, so 20% of them are addicted to meth, He just goes through the whole thing okay, this is what's good, this is what's bad, here's how it works, here's how it didn't work. I tried premium, I didn't try premium, in his quest, to find companionship.
Interesting.
And so
I've
it's
not read
really
this yet,
good.
So I'm
it's
really excited
good.
To hear
yeah,
this.
It's worth checking out. But he has, at the end of that post, he kind of breaks down, okay, so if you're wondering, what I swipe left on, he actually explains, I have rules for swiping left. And so I thought that we could read the rules for swiping left according to David, and that could actually launch us into a little bit of a discussion about dating apps and about dating websites. So this is to quote his actual blog. It says, quote, "Rules for swiping. I swipe left if there are no smiling pictures anywhere in her profile. I don't want to date someone whose only expression is a duck face."
Yes. He's right.
He's not wrong. I swipe left if she is posing with a bottle of vodka, not holding a drink, holding the entire fucking bottle. How common is this?
Yeah,
I swipe left if she is so jaded and bitter that the only things she says in her profile are reasons why you should not contact her. Obviously, she needs more practice time with her dog. I swipe left if there's a fundamental incompatibility. Take her at her word. Be honest about my preferences. If she says she's a vegan, well, that ain't gonna work because I love tri-tip. Don't swipe right just because she looks good, which is not what he said, but I polished that up a little bit. It's a family show, David. He swipes left if there are rampant grammar and spelling errors in her profile.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes, but if she doesn't know the difference between your and you are, it's not going to work out. This will bother me no matter how attractive she is. Which again, he did not write. You wrote it a little bit differently. He swipes left if she is not an atheist or agnostic. I don't want to argue about the existence of a being that is okay with cancer, tsunamis, genocide, and famine, but gets very upset if I touch my genitals. Critique received, David. Very good point. So, and then he basically points out, so that's the end of the quote there. So, but it begs a good question, right? So, these are, I think, questions that kind of arise from some of the feedback we've gotten on past posts that we've done about dating apps and also about reading, his kind of critique of it. And thank you, David, for letting us read that on air and for agreeing to, let us utilize that. But, these are good questions, Nick. Mm-hmm. Should we have rules, that we kind of come into dating apps with, the kind of type that we're looking for, or this person's grammar is bad, swipe left, or this person, has alcohol in their picture, swipe left, or, even when we're making our profiles, should we reveal a lot of information about ourselves and, what should we do?
Right.
And then should we prefer dating services that might match us based on compatibility, or should we prefer things that are more based on attraction? So there's some really good questions here that kind of arise. If you read his whole blog post, which you absolutely should, these are the kinds of questions that arise from his reviews. And so I thought it was a really cool question. We've had questions like that in the past, so we bring it on the show.
So I can tell you I can answer a few of those questions right now.
Okay.
Actually,
yeah. From your experience. Give us some feedback.
Not just from my experience, but from friends that I know that were also dating at the same time, and we would kind of talk and
compare notes,
commiserate, about some frustration that we were having. And one thing that I would always say, I really truly believe this, is I think the most important thing is to just be yourself. Don't try too hard.
Don't put on a fake profile.
Exactly, because even if that happens, even if you put on this facade over about the person that you wish you were instead of the person that you really truly are, you will always be the person you really are.
Right.
Eventually, your true self is going to come out. So if you find somebody that you ended up using kind of this fake profile to attract, and you go on a few dates, eventually the real you is going to come out, and then that relationship probably isn't going to work. So you've wasted all that time. All that time could have been spent trying to find the person who was a better fit for you.
Yeah, I think that's true.
First and foremost, I think you always have to be yourself. And smile in your pictures. Honestly,
Smile, yeah.
Honestly, he's right. I mean, like, you just do those 2 rules right there.
Be yourself
and just smile.
Do you think that a profile... I mean, because the dating apps are very different, and if you read his review, it's stunning, because I didn't know any of this, but, like, there's ones where you really write a lot about yourself, and, like, there's ones where, like, you even take, like, personality tests, and you get matched up with other people, and then there's ones where you provide almost nothing, and it's mostly just pictures, and maybe a brief kind of, like, here's my vitals, like, this is my height, you know, my build, like, or whatever, my age, and so it's interesting, right, because I think it begs the question, like, less is more? Like, which is better, to know a lot or to not know a lot? And I think that's a good question. Like, I think that's a very debatable thing.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it is a really good question. It almost kind of seems like the further we get, you know, the further we advance in social sciences, we should just get to a point where we just put everything into a database and you just naturally select
here's your mate.
Yeah, here's your mate.
I think it's interesting because I have a really good book about the psychology of human sexuality and attraction. And here's the thing I think is interesting about this. Left to our own devices, without databases to help pair us together, humans seem to manage to create civilization and have babies, right? And we do that not having a lot of information. So, like, the normal human dating ritual and you know, getting togetherness is not interview style. It's not sit down and start with facts. It's not sit down and tell me your credit score. It starts with, I'm visually attracted to you. And then a conversation begins, and if you don't screw this up in the first 30 minutes, then, like, we can continue. And it's a feeling out process, right? And so, like, but it's interesting though, because on one hand, I'm biased in that direction. I think don't overthink it. Maybe the easier apps, like he describes Tinder as being a very simple app, and I think, like, okay, maybe those are the better ones. Maybe that's more consistent with human mating rituals and how we get together. But then the psychology guy in me really likes compatibility. And I think it's really neat to know that up front. Like, you're compatible. Yeah. Like, what if you really fall for somebody and, like he says, you find out that they have a theologically different opinion than you and it's meaningful to them? Like, that could really be a deal breaker and you wish you would have known that, you know?
Right.
So I kind of believe you should have information up front.
Yeah, but I also think there's something to be said about how you gather that information. The process of gathering that information, which I think you do on those first few dates.
You do, yeah, and the dating scheme.
Yeah.
You kind of ask questions. Whenever you would go on a first date, do you, like, interview them? Do you, like, pull out, like, a piece of paper and go, question 1?
Yes, and I had my glasses down at the end of my nose.
At the end of your nose.
I never had many second dates. Weird. Really weird.
It's weird. I never got a lot of callbacks.
Yeah.
I personally, I think that oh God, it's tough because I really believe, like, I've seen statistics that say more than 25% of new relationships are now formed through an online dating app. They're clearly working and they're prolific. That's why there's so many reviews of them. We are kind of abandoning the old school model of 2 people show up at a bar and you know, you send a drink her way and that's where it starts. We're abandoning that model for this new model. But I think in this new model, there's some interesting pitfalls. For one, you can now shop like you're on Amazon for a human.
Right.
And so you're swiping. Like, there was some study done of how many swipes a person can complete in a minute. And it was over 60. And that bothered me. So I was like, wait, you're making literally split-second decisions on compatibility. So you're only looking at features, which, fine, I think that's fair. You can go by attraction. But it's interesting because I've seen a study that also interviewed people and asked, tell me about the person without reading their profile. And a lot of people believed they could. That they had sorts of conclusions they could draw just from seeing the person. That they knew about their personality. And it's, like, interesting. And, like, they're not wrong. Like, humans are good at detecting patterns. And humans are good at detecting, like, making conclusions based on what they're wearing and how they carry themselves.
People are also really good at intentionally picking their pictures
so that they only send a certain message.
Right.
This is all a con.
No, it's so when I had my when I was single, one of my friends is a therapist also, and so she helped me identify some pictures, and
that were good ones.
Well, and what it was you want an action picture.
Oh, interesting.
So I had a picture of me hiking. You need a hobby picture.
Okay.
So I think maybe one of me with a guitar or something like that.
Yeah, you want a picture of you sitting on Santa's lap.
Yep, you
that
need
way
a picture.
They know that you're festive.
Right. You need a picture.
You need a baby picture.
From far away.
Oh, really? That's what
not just close-ups, but far away, so people can see
your frame.
Your whole
frame
and everything. And there's a lot that, I mean, people really think really hard about
That's amazing. Like,
yeah.
But no, it does matter. Like, we can chuckle and go, oh, that's so silly, you overthink it. No, you're really not. Because people are making a split-second decision. So I hope you kind of are taking it seriously. But no, I think it's wild. And, I think it really invites a lot of good questions. I don't know that I've seen psychology produce answers as far as what's the right way to go, which is why I think apps and websites that blend the spontaneity, go by attractiveness model with the you can take a second look and dive deeper. That, I think, is the right hybrid. And I do like compatibility. I do think that that's a good way to do it, like the eHarmonies of the world, which he described, by the way, as too Christian. And I was like, really? Is that Christian? Like, I didn't know. But he's like, yeah, they just flooded that thing. It's like, okay, because there's Christian mingle, so they know their place. I think the best dating app, though, Nick, is Farmers Only.
I stuck only to Farmers Only.
Yeah, that was your jam.
Right, I'm from Iowa.
That's the entry. You have to prove it. Yeah. Like, let me see that birth certificate. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's written on an ear of corn. He's good.
Right.
But no, I think it's good questions, and a lot of you guys have written in with this kind of stuff. And honestly, my big takeaway advice on dating apps and dating websites is you need to allow attraction to lead. I think that that's probably a good call. And so I believe in the model of picture shopping. I just think it's just too ingrained in human evolution. It's fine. I think that's where you start. But then I also think what you said, Nick, be candid, be honest, fill your profile with some truth. Don't just keep it superficial. And I think, what he did in his post saying, these are my dislikes, like these are things I'm not looking for. I think that kind of does make sense. I think it's okay to kind of have that pattern, that shorthand that you use to just kind of disqualify. I
mean, as we have evolved into this new way of dating, it's kind of a numbers game too. I mean, you have way more access to way more people than you did before.
Right.
So you have to have some kind of filter in place.
Yeah, I think you kind of do. So. But no, I'd love to hear other listeners' filter strategies. What are your rules for the dating apps? Feel free to let us know. I'd love to hear about it, and that'd be good feedback things that we can read. So excited for it, but great topic of interest, and thank you again, David Vialon, Data Scoop, one of our Theraproducers, for sharing that post with us and letting us kind of riff on it. We really appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move into the last part of our show.
Yep.
It's time for apologies, reviews, and announcements.
Okay, so first I want to apologize to your beagle, Layla. She has been, this whole time, just dutifully trying to get on my lap. Like, that's all this dog wants. No, she keeps bumping the microphone. She doesn't care. Like, she just barrels into, like, the little microphone thing, so I'm trying to, like, keep her at arm's length, literally. So, Layla, I apologize. You're a good girl. Oh, as she shakes because she feels better. Other apologies that have arisen out of my Twitter. I would like to apologize to the Oscars for offering to host you when Kevin Hart got kicked out for being homophobic. I don't know that I could do better than Kevin Hart, and I don't know that I have less things in my Twitter feed to apologize for. But, I apologize for even attempting to show up. I think that would have been bad for you. I apologize to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They have recently approved a drug to treat dogs, and I said that we should follow up with a new podcast, Dog Therapy. I think it's ready, Nick.
I think we should do that.
This is our chance. Just
time
sit with
for
your
us
dog.
To expand.
Layla,
I think it's obvious that we've cracked this market, and we've
beaten podcasting. I feel like whenever you've gone to the top, there's nowhere to go.
Right.
But down.
We definitely are the number one therapy podcast in Las Vegas.
We're the number one therapy podcast in your loft.
In Southwest Las Vegas.
In Southwest Las Vegas currently at this hour. Yeah. I would like to apologize to Delta Airlines. Whenever you announce that you are banning emotional support animals, I'm sorry that I said you should change your ad campaign to abandon all hope, all ye who enter here. Because you guys are just terrible. Actually, I don't apologize. You guys are the devil.
I like Delta.
Delta's not my friend. Lastly, I'd like to apologize to my mom, who's on Twitter as @Dr. Jim's mom. She does not know how to use it, and every time I try to offer her advice, I make it worse. She literally just texted me during this recording, and I'll read it. Little man, I'm confused on the Twitter bird thing. You told me to make an account, and then I could follow. but you said I did it wrong. Is there a link I could just click on the Twitter? Everything about that makes me happy. Hey, that Twitter bird thing, it's not working. So is there a link I can click on the Twitter?
One of my friends in high school, his mom was, she worked on computers, like fixing computers, doing computer repair. And she got a phone call once from this lady, and she was an older lady, and she's like, yeah, my cup holder broke.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, cup holder? Yeah, my cup holder?
The disk drive?
Yes.
I scared your dog by gasping.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is welcome to dog therapy.
The disk drive.
You're a good girl.
She thought it was a cup holder.
Okay, if you have a pet, I want you to put it up next to the microphone. We're going to experiment with dog therapy right now. Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? You're a good girl, and you always have been, and you don't need the affirmation of a man. You don't need me to tell you you're a good girl. You were always a good girl.
And we want to thank our
Patrons. Dog Therapy, who are probably exiting out of Patreon right now. Why don't you thank the TheraPals? I'll do the TheraPods.
All right. We want to thank our newest TheraPals at patreon.com/therapy. Welcome to Justin Nosek and Moxie Fox.
Thanks for joining the party, guys. And once a month, we say thank you to all of our TheraPods. And when we did that 2 weeks ago, we screwed it up. Because Nick doesn't know how Patreon works, I blame him.
He does not.
So today, we are thanking all of our dapper, three-toed reptilian special forces in our therapeutic alliance. Thank you to Brooks Lyle, Blaine Maurer, Brad Kefauver, Corey Owens, Dan Martin, David Pollock, who, by the way, has moved his bid up to $8.88, so we call him Crazy Eights David now, David Younce, Easy Whip, who, by the way, changed his bid to $6.66, so we call him Satanic Easy Whip, Ice Blue Scoop, who, by the way, changed her bid to $10 so she could be the Alpha Therapod, Kate
awesome.
Keller, who also, by the way, changed hers to $7 and doesn't request any kind of special recognition, she just really likes psychology. Lori Kallenbach, Leon Kassab, Linda Brandmeier, Mandy Abayla, Malia, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Peter Van Pelt, Robert Paulson, his name is Robert Paulson, who, by the way, Robert's like, wait, why the hell am I a Therapod? Because you're at $4.99, Robert. And you did that on purpose so that you could be king of the TheraPals. So technically you still are, but I'm acknowledging you in Therapod land now. John B., whose Twitter is amazing. Scoopaholic, Scoopstronaut, who also increased hers to $5.32. And Tracy Replogle, a.k.a. my mom. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Jackson.
And last but not least, we want to thank
our bosses,
the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Smitty Scoop,
Jake Schneider,
Robert Brownie Jr. Ment,
Kyla Lansbury,
David Data Scoop Violon,
Judy Schneider,
Gray Whitaker,
Chairman of the board, I'll have you know.
Chairman of the board, sorry, I missed that.
And Dr. Ben Has Dirt on Nick Dawn. And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unepisode, by the way, there's a lot of talking to the dogs in the uncut version, and enjoy things like our book club and our discussion groups, you can go to patreon.com/therapy. And speaking of our Patreon channel, Nick, we posted chapter 6 of the book we are reading, Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Which is interesting that I say F when I read the title, but I literally dropped an F-bomb earlier in the podcast.
Like 5 times already.
Yeah, I don't know why I do that. And also Afterthoughts, the podcast that you do. Afterthoughts with Laura, who is a fan of the show and offers feedback from a feminine perspective, which is always really valid. I'm really grateful to have that.
One day we'll listen.
One day we'll listen to that. I hope she heard that. That was really good.
Oh, she did hear the thing from the last episode where I said I wasn't listening about the...
Oh, the doula thing?
Yeah,
that was really funny.
I did receive hell for that.
Yeah, and by the way, if you heard the last episode where all of a sudden a blast from the future chimes in and we actually interview a doula, the uncut, unedited episode where we actually step on a rake over and over and over again and say a lot of wrong things, that is on the Patreon. So if you want to go back and hear that one, you can in all of its inaccurate glory. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. Thank you to those who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it, and thank you, Nick, for hosting us. If you'd remember that pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself, help us reach others by sharing this episode by copying and pasting the link in the description. And don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and on patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to add your own advice to today's questions? Post your thoughts at podtherapy.net and join the conversation. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Layla, the dog's new lover.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.